Late Night Health continues. I am very pleased and honored to welcome back Dave Foreman, who is known as the herbal pharmacist, to our show. I had some great time. Really great time with Dave a few weeks ago at the Natural Products Expo West. We spent over an hour together just talking about life. And if Dave didn't live in Florida and he lived in California, we'd be hanging out all the time. I'm saying that live and on the air, Dave, because I really mean that.
Well, I commiserate with you on that.
Well, you get to hang out with yourself all the time.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny though. I as you were saying that, I was thinking you might have some competition with my dog. I've been gone so much that I'm home today, and I'd been gone for from the dog. I'd been gone like 23 days in a row, and this dog has been no more than a foot and a half from me the whole day. So you might fight my dog on that one, but anyway. I also want to remind you that the second interview I ever did with you,
right?
Do you remember you driving the bus over me a few times because I didn't call you?
Oh, yes.
And
yes.
I'm like, wow, we've come a long way.
We have. That's right. Dave and I had talked. We were going to get together and just chat. And
right.
I kept calling him, and I just didn't feel the love, but I do now. And I have to say that Dave is just a little bit under the weather. So,
no, never. No, the herbal pharmacist never gets sick. No, actually, I'll be the first to admit it. I get sick, Mark, when I don't practice everything I preach. And so whenever I get sick, I always have to look back at, all right, what were you doing the last week or two before you got sick? Because normally, and you can ask my daughter, she thinks I'm like a complete jerk about this, but I'm like, I don't believe in illness. And she's like getting colds and flu and stuff like that. And I said, weak people get sick. And I can tell you that if I look for the last, I got sick like 6 days ago, I guess, 5 days ago. But if I look at what happened the week or week and a half before I didn't eat the way I normally would, I was getting zero exercise.
And you were probably and you were traveling a lot too.
I was, But normally I'll have maybe an omelet for breakfast. I'll try to hit a gym for 30 minutes. Of all cardio or mixed cardio and lightweight lifting, or So I can tell I dropped the ball, and eventually your body gives you back what you gave it, and I gave my body a crap treatment, and it gave it right back to me. So
got it. Well, we want to talk about back pain. One of the biggest problems facing America is lower back pain. More people call in sick because of lower back pain, more operations with lower back pain. There are a variety of shoes and devices to alleviate back pain. And, of course, there's ibuprofen and acetaminophen is often prescribed to reduce the pain associated with the lower back. But you have a different perspective on this that's going to really help America. So tell us about that.
I feel like I do, and I can tell you that I'm a walking testimony to the things that I'm going to tell you. One of my favorite things is to be a product of, you don't want to be a hypocrite, so you've got to be able to, practice what you're preaching. And in my mid-30s, I had back problems to the point of, had an MRI, physical therapy, drug treatments, muscle relaxants. I mean, that was all back when I owned my pharmacy, and actually even before I owned my pharmacy. And, there are definitely some natural things that we can do. You mentioned shoe inserts and stuff like that. It's interesting because there was a recent study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, Internal Medicine. That's a lot to say, isn't it?
It is.
Anyway, they went back and looked at all these studies on people with acute lower back pain, and they found 21 studies involving over 31,000 people, and they basically found that back belts and shoe insoles and, you know, a lot of this quirky. I found this other really cool article that they called them gizmos and gadgets.
Right.
Ergonomic chairs and, they said so ergonomic chairs, special shoe inserts, Velcro back belts you can pick up pretty much anywhere at the pharmacy or even, you know, the big box stores, that those were basically worthless and useless, and that's why Americans are wasting so much money on the condition.
It's $1 billion. The back industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yeah, it's like 80 billion.
Wow.
Yeah.
1%, that's all I ask.
Yeah, man, I'll take 0.1%. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You're just being greedy, Mark. Come on.
I know. I know.
But what they did find is probably the best thing you can do to help. And this is, I'm going to call it my natural treatment. You ready? I've got 4 things we're going to talk about. Number 1 is to get more exercise, and that usually sounds counterproductive to someone that's sitting there right now and your back's bothering you. But they found that people who got regular exercise reduced the risk of repeating their low back pain by up to 40%. Back in November, I actually hurt my back golfing. I was in Phoenix for Thanksgiving, and just tweaked it, and then on the driving range decided to keep playing. And so a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about, natural remedies, treatments, and such, are things that I've walked through or I've done. And no pun on the walk through, I guess you could say.
Well, actually, walking is something that I find when my back doesn't feel good, and if I'm sitting, for hours talking like I do right now, if I get up and move around and walk, it seems to loosen up my back muscles, and I feel much better about it. In fact, I know that just walking in general is good for the back.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because one of the leading things that got me, I feel like, recovering quicker than the average person is the fact that I didn't do walking, Mark, but I used a recumbent bike, so I was seated in a better position than being up and hunched over. And I also did core exercises. In the Journal of the American Medical Association, their study showed that this is the part that blows my mind, any type of exercise helps, including doing things like yoga. You said walking, so like walking your dog.
Right.
Weight training, obviously being cautious on that end of it. Swimming is a good form of exercise, yoga, like I mentioned. But anything you can do to get moving, it promotes healing. You get more blood flow. The muscles, especially if you're doing core exercises, and strengthening your abdominal walls, that will strengthen your back. And when you strengthen your back, you're less likely to have, the vertebrae get out of alignment. You're less likely to have muscle spasms and all the other things that go along with it. So, in exercise, what does that cost us? It costs you time. In your case, a good pair of walking shoes, right?
Right, exactly.
And
a cane.
It's one of my favorite things to recommend.
One of the things that I'm led to believe is that people experience back pain. They rush to the doctor, an orthopedic guy, and they make their money cutting. It's also my understanding that if they were to wait and do some exercise like you're describing, that oftentimes, 80% or more of the time, the situation resolves itself.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I look at two things in our society now. When I see people that either have back problems, especially lower back, and or hips and knee problems, and I look at the fact that most people are overweight. And the other day, I was in the grocery store buying more dog food, and I picked up the bag, and it was like 45 pounds. And I said, "Oh my God!" I'm like, "This is what it would feel like to carry around 45 pounds extra if I was 45 pounds overweight." And I don't think people think of that. If you got say you're 20 pounds overweight, that's like carrying 2 10-pound bags of sugar around. It takes its toll on your body. So, not only is that exercise going to help in the way we already described, maybe releasing more endorphins, but it's also going to help you maybe lose the weight. And I think, being overweight, that sedentary lifestyle is really a major contributor to why there is such a high incidence of not just lower back, but just back problems and hip and knee problems we have here in the United States.
And lower back problems are really, I think, at the top of the list because of the way we sit, the way we walk, and the way we don't walk. If there are stairs, I was in an office building the other day, and it was only 2 or 3 flights, and I think I was on the third. Had to go to the third floor. I actually walked rather than waiting for the elevator, and it made me feel good. And when I came down, I did the same thing. I figured, a little bit of exercise is better than no bit of exercise. Our guest is the herbal pharmacist Dave Foreman. He's a good friend of Late Night Health. We really appreciate him. He's an author. He's been a radio host. He's on TV all the time throughout the country. And if you go to latenighthealth.com, you'll be able to see more about Dave under our guest tab, as well as a link to his information. And, of course, you'll be able to listen to us on iTunes now as well. All right, we will be back as Late Night Health continues. More coming up.
You're listening to Late Night Health with Mark Alyn. The show continues in a moment.